Okay, so this evening I want to talk about an LP that has had a less than favourable press over the years since its release. Initially good, but for some reason people have changed their opinion on it. It is this one by Megadeth. So far, so good, so what? From 1988. Now, as I said, it's had an interesting journey, this one. When it first came out, as I said, it's been lauded as a really good record. Kicks ass. It's got a punk rock attitude, etc. Good solid slab of thrash metal. Not particularly a long record. And it's a third LP from the band. I always loved it. I always really enjoyed this because it has got a certain punk appeal to it, but still got plenty of thrash metal going on. Now, and I'm glad it became part of my heavy metal education, so to speak, back in the day. Now, having listened to it again last night, I still enjoy it. I still get a lot from it. But I can see now why possibly people have started to slag it just a little bit. The production is a bit of an issue for me. It's just all a bit loud. I know it's meant to be, but it's just all a bit too loud. I suppose it's a tiny little bit compressed, which is a trend that obviously would continue well into the 90s and the noughties, and they're still doing it now. All kinds of heavy metal bands are guilty of that. But you'd expect better from a slab of vinyl. The production is a little bit, it's all just a little bit in the middle, and it's a little bit murky. Songs are still enjoyable, if some of them are a little bit silly. 501, you know, pull over shithead, it's a cops. I mean, that's a bit of a silly one. But I understand why people, say it's a bit silly in places, because it is. But they were young. There was a lot of issues in the band, membership lineup changes, etc. The lineup on this particular one is obviously for two Daves, Ellefson and Mustaine, Jeff Young, who appeared for one record on one tour, and Chuck Bella on drums, who appeared for one record on one tour. And this was the record. There they are right there. So, what songs have we got on here? Well, we've got some good songs. Into the Lungs of Hell is a great song. Set the World Afire. Anarchy in the UK, cover obviously. I always enjoyed the cover. I always thought it was a good version, but people slagged it. They said, "Oh, Megadeth can't do the Sex Pistols." Why not? It's just a new take on an old song. What's wrong with that? Oh, it doesn't sound very punk rock. Well, it's not meant to. It's Megadeth. Megadeth aren't punk rock, and yet in a way they were. So, what can you say? Then Mary Jane, which is the classic, on side one, finishes that side. Side two, 502, sorry, I called it 501, getting mixed up with Jeans. You don't want to get mixed up with the Jeans, that's for sure. There's a 502, which is for Pull Over Shithead, it's the Cabs. It's a bit silly. In My Darkest Hour is a good song. Liar, I always enjoyed it, but I felt the lyrical content was a bit daft. Again, bit silly. Possibly trying too hard. Hook in Mouth, I always enjoyed that as a way to finish a record. If ever there was a way to finish a record, it's Hook in Mouth. Okay, so the production, as I said, it's all right. As I say, it still gives that, you still get that punk vibe to it, that rough quality that I like from this kind of music. That impression that it was recorded in a toilet somewhere, but it does just sound a little bit compressed, just a little bit. It was produced by Dave Mustaine and Paul Lanny, mixed by Michael Wagner. Now the original guy who was going to mix this apparently had some behavioural issues, which included one morning being found in his underpants feeding a deer an apple or something like that, obviously outside the studio. So yeah, maybe it was better to move on to Michael Wagner, or Wagner, however he says his name. There were all kinds of issues going on at this time with the band. Jeff Young had his problems, Chuck Bella had his problems, there were concerts down under cancelled on this tour to support this record. So, you know, you had all that going on. But as an effort, I think So Far So Good So What is a good record. It sold 1 million copies in America, 60,000 in Britain, and a few 100,000 other, you know, more worldwide. So we're getting on for over 1 million copies sold worldwide. Charts, well, let's have a look. Again, Finland, number 5. I'm very impressed by the Finnish. They've got good taste. UK number 18, which is a bigger deal really, because remember this record had absolutely no coverage whatsoever in the mass media. No radio airplay, apart from on rock shows. No publicity whatsoever. It was hated by the public. Don't forget, this is the record where I think Dave Mustaine talks about, yeah, Hook in Mouth. That's the one where he talks about the PMRC. So let's not forget the culture then was to hate this band, and it was just pure hatred against them and against this record, and that is why the guys wrote Hook in Mouth with the famous line, as long as it's not the PMRC. So to get to number 18 in Britain, I know the PMRC is an American organisation, but to get to number 18 in Britain with no airplay is pretty good, in my opinion. But I remember when this came out, and there was a lot of support for it. I saw t-shirts everywhere, I saw battle vests everywhere with Megadeth on the back. You still do. And it was all about this record. People really liked it in the Manchester area anyway. I used to see a lot of stuff around, t-shirts, battle vests, caps. Even girls took to it. Girls liked it. I think they fancied Ellis and I think they fancied Mustaine. And probably Jeff Young. You know, who can say? But I remember friends of mine of the female persuasion who loved this record and loved Megadeth. So a lot of it was word of mouth, and David Mustaine admits that himself. A lot of it about this record was word of mouth, and that's how it sold 400,000 copies in America very, very quickly indeed after its initial release, which is pretty damned impressive for word of mouth. You would never get that nowadays, unfortunately. So, charts again, US Billboard 28. So, did the PMRC affect it? Possibly. Negative publicity. But all publicity is good publicity, isn't it? Of course it is. So, that's Megadeth. So Far So Good So What from 1988. Complete with free poster, which I still have. And let's have a look at the guys. If I can actually fit it on. I don't think I ever put this on a wall, you know. Free poster when people did things like that. There they are, looking mean and moody. A lineup that didn't last very long, but hey, it's a good record. If you've heard it, I can't imagine anybody watching this video won't have heard it, but if you haven't, or haven't heard it for a long time, go back retrospectively give it a listen and see what you think. I think you'll enjoy it because it's still an enjoyable record. So as I said before, Megadeth, So Far So Good So What, from 1988.